Hi, everybody. This is Marnie with the Golden Thread Podcast. And once again, so excited to bring some masculine energy onto the program today. And I am honored to welcome a dear friend, Shems Heartwell from Maui, who's actually in Maui right now, who's going to be joining us for the Golden Thread Podcast today. Thank you, Shems, for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Marnie. Appreciate being here with you.
Always a pleasure. And just always, I feel like we have such an enriching conversation whenever we get to actually sit down and do it because you are one busy Kane. It is. I'm really excited. You're like, I just went surfing today. And I'm like, this is so great. Please fit me in your schedule. Um, and let's learn a little bit about your background because I really love your background too, and I think it's quite unique that we find somebody who has a very robust background of not just being a facilitator but really focusing on relationships. And we did a podcast with you on authentic relating, which was really great. But you're also about collective empowerment and what is embodied transformation, and you
Mm.
work with many people. You have done influential teachers in the field of conscious relationship, conscious leadership, healing, and transformation, and over 20 years of experience on this in this topic in particular. And you work with, you know, couples, with individuals. You work privately and online, and then you also have some things coming up. That's your own retreat that is with SoulWaterSurf, a men's retreat that's going to be in Nica. Is that Costa Rica or New Mexico? In
Nicaragua.
Nicaragua. Oh my gosh, it's even cooler. Um, and then you're going to have this really cool course with Sacred Sons, which I'm really excited to hear about. So thank you. Many
Oh,
blessings and bowing to you, brother, because it's so great to have this other lens of what we're doing right now in the healing world and how we're showing up in the healing world. So let's just begin on what you've been busy with doing since we last spoke, which I know is a
well,
lot,
Marnie.
but
Well, thanks for having me on. Also, I just want to name right back to you. I really appreciate hearing what you're passionate about right now with your work with men and women, and it feels like there's a really nice synergy to drop in with you and to resonate in this realm of healing and balancing and this, just when you ask me what I'm up to, it's like I feel like there's so many layers going on for me just from having a property and having a wife and having life. And then there's the layers of work and all the things that have gone on in Hawaii too, with Lahaina being
mhm.
burned and Maui. I feel like there's lots of layers, but overall, I've been really fortunate to work with people all over the world through Zoom and have clientele and support people, and then have a retreat place in our home and our property where people can come and do deeper work. And the balance between that and having orchards and bees and living on the land. And I feel really fortunate to right now, I feel really balanced in my life right now
Mhm.
between work and property and relationship and having a small scale type farm thing going on with orchards and keeping bees and living on Hawaii, which is, as you know, such a privilege and a blessing. And
Mhm.
yeah, but the biggest thing I've been up to complete is I've worked with the Sacred Sons for quite a few years now, and they asked me to do a course for men on relationship skills. And it was such a good challenge for me because it's one thing to hop on with you and for us to have a dialogue and talk. This was me in front of a camera delivering this video course piece by piece, and having this opportunity to share something. And I created it so that men could do it on their own and learn what I feel like the most important relational skills. They could
Mhm.
also share it with their partner. Like they could do it together. So I broke it down to have exercises and these things. And so that's been a really challenging thing for me, but awesome
Mhm.
creation. It's about to go live, but it stretched me and it's humbled me up, and
Mhm.
it's such an experience to watch myself on a video and critique and edit and things like that. So that's been a really big journey that I'm just on the other side of completing almost, and it feels really good.
I'm really looking forward to that because I do feel this. I mean, one of the things of creating this this podcast was just because I knew so many amazing people doing fantastic work and wanting to like help people learn about who you are and build even this kind of relationship with you. And I know it's very difficult right now with online courses, and it can be feeling authentic and inauthentic. It's hard to connect with these ways, especially like when we're used to face-to-face connections. And so I'm just trying to, with this podcast, create more of that resonance of
Mm,
people feeling comfortable. And then
mm,
they feel comfortable and they feel safe, and then they can take on the work, which is always so rich. And what you have to offer is so rich, and it is something that we really need collectively right now. And but I feel like for some people, because what I'm working with right now, like in the refugee camps and the men's healing that needs to be done there, mainly because it's extreme crisis, complex PTSD and complex trauma, is they're not even close to like getting to that point, of being able to take something like what you're offering. And so, but when I come back from the East to the West, and I talk to all of the people, and they're very much like, oh, I've done a men's retreat. I feel more comfortable now. I've been listening to podcasts. I'm understanding the language more. I'm having day-to-day conversations with other individuals that, whether it's man to man or woman to woman or man to woman, that I can actually have a conversation about my emotional intelligence now, and like my unregulated nervous system. Like they even understand the term. So I really see us as a community like elevating in this way. And now it's just so exciting that like you get to do your work and share it with a broader audience, because that is
mm,
so important. Because I do feel like we are at that next level. It's like, okay, we've gone through kind of the introduction, and now it's time to go a little bit deeper, and we feel more comfortable, so let's go a little bit deeper. And that leads
mm,
me into my question with you is, this path of healing and this continuous door that kind of opens up for us on this journey, and having the courage to constantly look in the mirror and go through that door and have new experiences and open your brain to like have new neural pathways built. um, do you feel with this new men's retreat that you're doing, and it's not new, but I mean, like this feature right now of men's retreats and men groups retreats, I think is really exciting to see. Um, Mainly because like 25 years ago, I wouldn't have found a men's retreat. Doing the healing
mm,
work that I was doing, I'd have maybe one guy out of 20 in a retreat. And that was pretty consistent for like a decade. And now we're having like men's retreats. I mean, it's so exciting. Um, what do you feel is maybe some challenges, or even just some kind of like, oh yes, this is so great, that you've been getting back from community as you're making these offerings, these like men's retreat offerings?
mm. You know what? I after doing so much stuff online, I really appreciate being in person, and for men to get together, whether that's a retreat or some form of gathering they go to be out of our daily routine and away from too like our subtle ways of checking out, like devices, movies, TVs, news, and to be together in an environment where we're being guided to do exercise and experiences, and to actually have a lot of fun together, where guys get to
Mm-hmm.
take their armor off a little bit and feel seen and
Mm-hmm.
connected. The early wave of men's work, at least that I know of, with Mankind Project, which I did 20 something
Mm-hmm.
years ago,
Yeah.
it had this first layer of like putting guys through kind of a rite of passage that was really confrontational and tense. It started with more of like a military type energy, which has its place and
Right.
was really good. What's exciting about this newer wave of men's work that's happening a lot is it's starting with connection. It's starting
Mm-hmm.
with a quality of like welcoming to all and a quality of acceptance. And I think that's really healthy for men, because we've
Yep.
so learned to feel like judged or to judge or challenge us. So I think in a retreat environment, guys have this opportunity to kind of get into their hearts and into their beings in a way, and take away that filter of like judgment and insecurity and all these things come up, or have an opportunity to confront it, like have a safe environment to look at some of our learned early behavioral patterns where we have these things that literally get in the way, whether that's a
Mm-hmm.
busy mind, whether that's stories about others, whether that's stories about ourselves. And I think of really good men's work as it just starts burning that stuff up real quick and real
Mm-hmm.
fast, so
Mm-hmm.
that something else shows up. And the real stretch for men most of the time is their thresholds of availability to really connect. Like, I
Yeah.
think it's not just about doing deep work. It's about being in an environment where we really open and we feel connected and we feel like we allow ourselves to see and be seen and to see other men's gifts, to see
Mm-hmm.
our own, and to have this place where we're cooking, not just because we're confronting, which I think is important, like shadow work, where are you checking out, where we confront
Mm-hmm.
like our shadow aspects. There's also this other side of like literally where stuff just bubbles up in a container of love and connection. And
Mm-hmm.
that to
Mm-hmm.
me is really juicy. And I like the balance of both those realms. The one where guys are getting stretched more because they're like, I've never been around men that are this way together, that are, affectionate, warm, connected,
Mm-hmm.
caring, real, authentic, and then at the same time, penetrating and really direct with their presence and their heart, and they're not tolerating any of the bullshit that we do a lot of times, the masks we wear and things like that. And so that balance between those two worlds for me really excites me. And so if you were to
Mm-hmm.
say what the challenge of that is that sometimes for us men, we've learned these survival mechanisms of how we show ourselves in the world and how we do that. And sometimes that's being nice.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's these layers. And I think the challenge sometimes is helping a guy be able to really put those down for a handful of days and find
Mm-hmm.
out like, who are you without that? And who's the
Mm-hmm.
essence of your being, that like, not the boy in you, but the innocent being that we all come in as, that gets colored by the world, colored by
Mm-hmm.
society and culture and family and all these things. And we all have this essence to us that doesn't have to be like fixed or altered or worked on or look
Right.
good on social media. And I really light up around that. And to me, that's significant. It's almost like we got to go through the weeds of all the like,
Mm-hmm.
who should I be? How should I be as a man? What do I think other men want me to be? But versus, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you? And here's a space for you to be that and to find that and
Mm-hmm.
get to know that more, so you can bring that home to your family, to your community, to your life, and trust who you are and know who you are. So I'm not sure that answered your question, but those are the things that I think of, you know.
Yeah, I love it. And do you feel like there's a certain age group that gets attracted to these retreats in particular, or is it mostly like late 20s to late 60s, maybe? I mean, that's a big group of guys, but I mean, I'm always curious as
Mhm.
when the realization of awareness comes in for a man. And we all go through it, and mostly I will say that it's trauma induced. We it's through grief or loss or suffering that
Mhm.
we decide we want to take some time in our life to focus on self. And I do think that there are some pivotal points and junctures in life, chronologically, that we see a big
Yeah.
majority
Yeah.
of them. But I don't want it to be limited to that. I think that men can approach this work, at any age that they feel. I know that like Trevor is doing work with more youth focused
Mhm.
groups, and so that's really exciting. But is there a group, an age group that you work with in particular that kind of really understands the material and can go deeper with the present awareness of your framework,
It's changing really fast because of Sacred Sons and some other things on social media has actually made it kind of cool to go to men's
Mm-hmm.
events and do men's work. There is kind of this new thing. It's almost like it's like Burning Man a little bit. There's this
Yeah, yeah.
allure, and it's been so well represented in the social media and videos and like the fighting. And so
Mm-hmm.
so there's kind of a new thing happening. I'd say if I were to back up 5 years ago, I'd say it'd be
Yeah.
guys more in their like mid 30s to 60s,
Mm-hmm.
and some younger ones that were inspired for some reason through connection and all that. But it does feel
Mm-hmm.
like that it's broadening, and there's like this, I'm missing out if I'm not doing it. I think that's a new
Mm-hmm.
thing. Most of the
Mm-hmm.
men that do retreats with me, we've had some form of point of connection. Like, it's not just like they're not coming in cold super often. They're coming in, they've done some work with
Right.
me, they've been to a retreat with me somewhere else, they have
Mm-hmm.
some connection to me through some way, so they have this trust a little bit. That's pretty common, and they're
Yeah.
like, I want to go do more, I want to be in that environment some more.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, for me, it's been that way a little bit more than like, it's either a referral from someone who's done some work or that. And I'm excited about that, saying that there is something kind of neat happening, that men are gravitating because there's this sense of like a hunger in us feel more fulfilled or do things differently than we've been doing, kind of realizing a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things that we do just aren't fulfilling. So there's a new draw, and so a new wave of men that are just magnetized in a good way to the different pockets of men's work that are happening. When I
Oh.
was hearing you share about your experience in Thailand, I'm thinking of, how many in these, like, we call them, what do they call, digital nomads now, that go and live in Thailand or
Mm-hmm.
Bali or Hawaii,
Mm-hmm.
that go there
Yeah.
and they're maybe evolved souls and they're doing really cool work and maybe they're making their money like through social media. What I love to see more of, and I think Hawaii does this really well too, is like, how are you
Yeah.
plugging into communities, and where are you, how are you going to Thailand, but also being a part of culture and having doorways in for the local people too, for there to be more of an exchange. That kind of lit me up a little bit as I was speaking to you, when you
Yeah.
said, like, that feels like the next evolution too, in a certain sense of, like, we've
Oh
got these
yeah.
kind of evolved souls that want to live in these cool places and live affordably and simply. How can they
Mm-hmm.
contribute to the places they're in and bring light, and
Absolutely.
bring energy, and bring conscious, which Hawaii really is a place for that to happen. Like, you can't really live well in Hawaii without, on some level, plugging into the life here and giving back on some
Mm-hmm.
level. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the most beautiful things of the culture here, is it,
Mm-hmm.
you, to really be accepted, you've got to participate in the culture.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that's
Mm-hmm.
what's got to happen more in Bali and Thailand and all these other, like, Mexico and all these cool places, that we want to go be
Mm-hmm.
at.
Yes, I think that's kind of leaning into the whole thing of aloha aina and reciprocity, and living, I mean, having this full circle of healing self and then healing community and healing world, and it's exciting to I'm just excited I'm alive to see it. I mean, I never really thought that I was ever going to be seeing so much of a movement happening that's happening right now, and like you said, it is happening like really rapidly. And so the more like awareness that I can do to share your work and other men that are doing work and the availability of it, I think is going to start creating these bridges, between all these worlds that are popping up, these healing communities that are popping up, and everybody's learning, but everyone's learning a lot quicker, and like you
Mm,
said, they show up. Like I've done a workshop in Thailand, like everybody, they already have the lingo, they already have
mm,
done some kind of work through online something. It's very different than when I was going to healing school. Like that was a 3 year apprenticeship in person every weekend. Like it was no joke. You had to pay your
yeah,
dues, and
yeah,
that's not how it is now. So it's very interesting to see the dynamic kind of shift, but also the huge need that is out there, and need
mm,
for really authentic guidance. And that's why I really appreciate your work, because you've had a very strong commitment to your work and have sought out some incredible teachers. I wanted to ask that one question, which is because I know you have a dynamic of lots of things that you've studied over the years, but some of your original teachers and mentors, I remember you mentioning them to me one time. I think it's important for people to also to understand where the teachings are coming from, and
mm,
what your background is, because there is a lot of, I think, I don't want to say like, it's not like really like falsification, but I mean, there's a lot of like copycatting, And
mm,
so there's a difference between somebody who has a lot of experience in facilitation, as you do, and many like over 20 years of experience and knowledge, and firsthand experience, both private and groups, and that really shows in the kind of experience that person is going to have going on retreat with you, or working with you one on one. So could you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into this field? I know of authentic relating in particular.
for sure. Thank you. I've had quite a few members over a long road now. However, the first most significant ones was after had just finished acupuncture school and done the whole medical world thing. And my partner and I at the time, she's like, let's go to this Foundation for Conscious Living workshop I'd heard about. I'm like, cool. And we had done some workshops with Margot Anand around Tantra
Mm-hmm.
and some cool stuff. And she had heard from a participant, you should do this. So we go to this workshop at the Land of Medicine Buddha in Santa Cruz in the mountains. I was like,
I
okay,
love that place.
Yeah, really beautiful place. And it was the first time Katie Hendricks was doing a workshop there. And we walk in the space, and this is
Hmm.
Gay and Katie Hendricks, but it was just Katie for this first one. And
Hmm.
what I noticed right away was being in that real environment was the amount of how alive people were, how much open to feelings, communication, embodiment. I was like, these are the most switched on people I've ever seen before. And they were from all these places. And
Hmm.
how she did her work at the time was she'd be teaching these seminars that were, between 60 and 150 people, but she'd always have about 15 to 30 people apprenticing or in her leadership training, which is what it was called later. So as soon as you
Hmm.
enter the room, there was such a high caliber of people breathing really fully, standing up straight, participating fully, engaging and raising the bar of people
Hmm.
showing up and communicating. So the first couple of days of this workshop, I couldn't believe how much participation, how much expression, how much energy. And I watched all this stuff bubbling up in me. Like I felt insecure. I'm like, what am I doing here? I felt really just because of that, the accelerated environment was so alive and rich with energy and intensity, and the work was very embodied. It was not just heady understanding. It was very much, let's try this on, partner up with somebody, do this exercise, share these things. And so it was simultaneously like really triggering if there was something there, because it was asking us to not just sit back and listen and absorb. It was like, receive this concept, participate. And it blew me open. And she
Hmm.
did some one-on-one work with me too, that I was about surfing. Actually, at the time I was like dealing with some bullies in Santa Cruz, being a young kid in Santa Cruz and dealing with like a
Hmm.
pecking order and attitudes and stuff. And I just didn't have a lot of fight in me then. I was not there. And she
Hmm.
was like bumping bellies with me and having me like meet her with my energy. And
Yeah.
so that was my first wave of things. And it led to 3 years of joining their apprenticeship leadership training and spending 3 years going to these workshops and seminars that were anywhere from 4 days to 12 days long. And they were very
Hmm.
intensive, like morning to night. And that was so incredible to marinate in that environment. And
Hmm.
then anybody who was in an environment with them, they would teach those principles. And then they would have us teach each other them and really own them pretty quickly in there to move into facilitator roles, not with the bigger
Hmm.
groups, but with the
Yeah.
leadership groups. So for me, that was super significant. And
Hmm.
it felt like I was in I call it like basically the experience was definitely like an upgrade of my operating system on a
Yeah.
lot of levels. Like that's how I think of the good work, whether it's therapy or coaching. What we're doing is
Hmm.
we're upgrading our operating system. We're looking at what doesn't work anymore, and we're turning on things in us that give us more spectrum of capacity. So whenever I look
Yeah.
for what work people, and I'm looking for like how much spectrum are they turning on in somebody. So I went from
Yeah.
that work, which just completely opened me up, and it changed my life from wanting to be like a naturopathic acupuncturist to
Hmm.
wow, relational work, self-awareness, embodied breath work connection. Like things really change there, maybe even more than through herbs and acupuncture and dietary changes. I really
Yeah.
experienced how much we change when we work with like our family generational stuff, like the trauma in our family systems, the
Hmm.
early imprinting in our systems, and we work that out relationally, whether we like it or
Yeah.
not. That's what I learned
Yeah.
again and again with all my teachers over the road, is that basically most of us suffer when we get in a relationship if we don't have like we're gonna be forced to grow. Our
Yes.
relationships, they're going to touch the places where we shut down or where we become overreactive or controlling or angry, or like that stuff gets up. And it's in those moments, if we don't have another way to learn around that and pay attention and realize that's an opportunity to grow, usually we get into places where the relationship is hard and challenging.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
really learned that firsthand, as the patterns repeat until we really have a place to try on and have a safe environment to shed old skin and let new skin grow in us, let us become more of who we can be.
Hmm.
That changed my whole trajectory of everything. And then from
Hmm.
there I ended up working with quite a few other teachers, but the most important one was I did relational constellation work. I met this
Hmm.
therapist woman from Europe who they teach at Esalen, and they have the Relational Constellation Institute, and that was like a whole nother level of work of realizing like my father losing his parents in Germany had this effect on him, but had a deep effect on me of whether I trust the world, whether the world's a
Hmm.
safe place, and how much fear I run about possibility. And I got to work with that through representations and these things that start to work with this morphogenic field between people and energies that's going on all the time. But realizing it was just absolutely, like, literally beyond the mind on like a subtle spiritual slash grounded embodied experience. It was so good for
Mhm.
me. And to me, that holding space for that, and even like being someone else's grandmother and representing and letting that energy come into me and representing that for somebody, and letting what wanted to happen to reestablish where love got blocked, which is really the work for
Mhm.
most of us,
Mhm. Mhm.
that like had me feel some of the most uncomfortable things I've ever felt, to
Mhm.
also feeling the deepest love and openings I've ever felt that would happen in these engagements. And it's hard to paint the picture of how significant that was, but it really allowed me to understand what facilitation really is. It's this,
Mhm. Mhm.
it's not a controlled thing. It's a paying attention to what's going on and really looking for what connection needs to be made that's been lost. You
Mhm.
know, what opening needs to happen, what relaxation has to happen to allow
Mhm.
something to get released or felt, to heal. And it's not
Mhm.
like all this trying to change somebody, it's this making this space for
Mhm.
things to open or be expressed that just have never gotten to be expressed.
Mhm.
So my teachers after that, it just continued to be aspects of that, of another more angles and branches of that, that feels to
Yeah.
me like so rich and so juicy.
Mhm.
You can see I get
So
excited.
like leaning into the reading even more. I was like, it's so good, and there's so much to it, and just the nuances of the facets of healing, and it's never ending. Which I want to, really commend everybody who's listening to this and who is like, yeah, I need to go on another retreat. I think it's important for us to do some self check-ins, and I know for me with my mindfulness, like we have to go on to silence a year, like you have to continuously work on the practice because it is so multi-layered and so many things that you can discover about yourself, whether it's intergenerationally, whether it's the present life, whether it's how you are with the first person in front of you, your children, your friends, your family, your community. It's ongoing, but there are skills and tools that you can learn to navigate through that. And probably this course that you're going to be having with Sacred Sons is really going to be um, available for more people to practice some of these skills and learn different ways of relating with each other. And how can people learn more about your work?
Oh, simply going to my website is a
Yeah.
good doorway to that.
Yeah.
To just kind of read. I have links to podcasts and some articles I've written and info there that gives people a little realm. One thing I wanted to add around like
Yeah.
retreats and things, the experience to me is really rich. It's not just the teachers in that, it's the environment of people that are magnetized to a retreat environment, even if it's like deep meditation work, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
something that happens when we allow ourselves to surrender and enter an environment that we're not in control of, and to
Mm-hmm.
go with the established journey that gets created, and to allow the magical interactions that happen between people you wouldn't meet in any other environment, unless people are kind of
Mm-hmm.
stepping out of their daily life and into a realm that allows something new to happen. And I've seen so much healing happen through even people just
Mm-hmm.
meeting at a retreat and having medicine for each other. Simply put, something about each other's presence and
Mm-hmm.
connection like makes a contact point that allows something to open. And so that's the other thing I like about stepping out of the world sometimes and entering an environment where we are going deeper, and whether that's a vipassana or that's a men's retreat or that's some form of art retreat or something. Those environments,
Mm-hmm.
they it's like they put us in new soil that we get different
Yeah.
nutrients in. And I really think that I encourage people to do that, because you can't get it all online. You can't get it all through the computer and TV and network. There's something that happens in the experiential exchange that I can't
Mm-hmm.
emphasize enough, especially as everything is getting so much more online. I
Mm-hmm.
find there's a big deficiency in that, even though there's a lot of gold to it. They both are true.
Yes. 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 And I think it was one of Ram Dass's quotes where, he said all the environments that he's been in, he has a spacesuit, and one of my favorite things to do is like to walk into a retreat setting and to take that spacesuit off of however I've been conditioned, and I can just walk in. Nobody knows who I am. Nobody even knows my name. Nobody knows what I do, what I have to like say, how I have to act. I can be a different version of myself and explore myself in a new way, and watch myself like interact with people To me, it's fascinating. I I become my own experiment, and I think it's just fascinating to see how we are in new environments and, like you said, the richness of being around new people, new symbiotic, and then like watching people trigger each other and why you feel that little bit of, oh, I don't know about that
Yeah.
Wahine over there, she's giving me the and like, oh wow, I gotta look at that, and so I mean, when else are you gonna do that? I think the importance of going on retreat is for that, is to break free of like whatever egoic identity we've established for ourselves to make us feel like we've accomplished something in this life, and to take that hat off and to go into a completely new space and be like, I'm a brand new baby and I'm here to learn and I'm here to grow and evolve. And so I really thank you for making, just the reminder that it's
Mhm.
important to go on these things. And can you tell us a little bit before we kind of head off? I know we could talk forever, but you do have an upcoming retreat that you're offering. Um, and it's almost like a men's surf retreat. So it's a combination of surfing
Yeah.
and men's
This
work.
this is the first time I'm actually bringing two loves together, because I'm a pretty passionate, lifelong surfer at this point, and so I have the
Yeah.
friend who built a retreat house on Nicaragua with the hot, cold plunge and sauna and all that. And we're going to integrate
Yeah.
doing that work, but also I have some skilled surfers coming who are going to be surfing on a really good wave in Nicaragua and on this beach break. And then there'll be some other beginner spots. So I have a few people coming to learn or just have that ocean time. And again, the elements, that's why I love surfing so much, is it's like being immersed in a hunting environment or something. It's just you're in the elements and
Yeah.
stuff comes up, and it's a mixture of like great joy and playfulness, and also it can put us on our edges in good ways, and then be able to have the time to drop in and eat good food and have circle up and
Mhm.
bring that realm of the deeper exploration of how are we doing in our life, what's happening, how can we support each other. And so that's what this one's about. And we're almost full. We've got one more guy coming, one more guy that we're looking for to join us, but it's an intimate small one, only 10 guys, so it's going to be a
Okay.
one in Nicaragua, and it's next month.
Okay. And if people want to learn more, you can go to Shem's website, which is shemsheartwell.com. And I'll be putting all this information and all the social media links and everything so you can learn about his work. But I do feel like when I look back at history and in terms of how people gather, and especially for men, whether they went on a hunt together or they, it was always like this, I find it fascinating as a research scientist, the
Yeah.
human behavior around like sports and like the adrenaline and the endorphins that are pumping, and then like being together and learning something new and being on an adventure that's new, and it brings a symbiotic nature with all of you guys together, and then that can open up more conversations. So I love it. I think it's so great to have a component of that, which is, there you can do like men's plant medicine retreats, men's,
Mhm.
shopping retreats, men's, I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do, but
Yeah.
I I mean, but I do think it's a very, it's nice to see something that you're combining, like you said, your two loves together, and having
Yeah.
that be an offering, because yeah, that's going to create so much growth for you personally as well.
Mhm.
And to connect with men who also have those two things together. So I love that.
Yeah, and other people who are listeners too. They also, I'm a leader for Sacred Sons, and they're doing their first time bringing men and women together in September, and that's a really cool thing to check out because it's affordable, it's big energy, a lot of awesome things. But it's the first time integrating men's work and bringing women facilitators in, and it's going to be a very new realm in Washington in September. So if anybody listening is just interested in that too, it's worth checking out Sacred Sons work because there's some really incredible things happening. It's that mixture of almost a festival mixed in with doing really beautiful
Hmm.
work in a big collective of people. And this is going to be a new frontier of it. That's pretty excited. I'm looking forward to being in that too.
Oh, I'm so excited that you're a part of that. And I will add that to the links as well, which is sacredsons.com for any of you who are listening. But Shems, it's been an honor once again. I really want to thank you for your time and for your energy and for your commitment to humanity, for doing all that you're doing, and especially for the men's work, because we need it like so deeply. And for anybody who is listening and wants to work with Shems, I highly recommend you check out his website, Shems, Shems, Heartwell, HeartWell.com, and connect with him there. He's a life and relationship guide, but more importantly, he's just an amazing human being and doing incredible work. And so, on behalf of all the women out there, thank you, thank you, thank you for
Mhm.
helping all the men out there learn how to do authentic relationships and just open up their hearts and be able to have language around their emotions and their ability to connect and relate. And it's a very exciting time, I think, to be around people like you who are facilitating this kind of work, because it'll really show how we are as a society to be healthy and really evolve in a way that I think we can finally start bringing in the balance of the masculine and feminine divine. So mahalo,
Mm.
brother, for coming on, and just so good to see you.
Marnie, thank you. Thank you for all your good work. Really appreciate your support, inviting me on. Really good to see you and drop in with you for a little bit here.
Yay. Okay, everybody, until next time, please tune in to the Golden Thread podcast. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, any other place available. And aloha and ahuiho.
Aloha.